Hello and welcome to Fulton Street Beats. Today we're going to take a look at a bass guitar and how I like to set up a bass guitar. And hopefully you guys can take away something from this, and hopefully I can learn something from this myself. Now, normally when I get a guitar in, be it a bass guitar or a regular guitar, I like to go through it and set things up my way. This bass you're about to see came in and it was set up pretty well, especially for an inexpensive bass. This bass came in at $89, I shit you not. And it's an outstanding bass for that price, but it's an outstanding bass for, I mean, any price really, because it's got good bones. You don't have to change anything out of the box. You can pretty much take it out of the box and play it and make it sound good. And that goes a long way. I guess I could say it's set up for anyone where they could play it. Not that it's fine-tuned for anyone, and because that can be all over the place. Fine-tuning is an individual choice and individual taste. So what we're going to do today is, I've had this bass for a little bit, and I've played with it just to show how well it played out of the box. And I did Joe Walsh's Rocky Mountain Way, and the action was a bit high for what I like. Not that it's high for everybody. It's actually a decent action, but I like my action slammed. And as you guys know, I like playing with flat wounds. So today what we're going to do is we're going to dive into this bass. We're going to see what pickups are in this thing and why they sound so good. At least get a look at the inners of this thing. See how well it's routed out. If my suspicions are correct, there's no springs underneath these pickups, which makes pickup height adjustment impossible. So we'll end up putting some springs in there. We're going to take the frets. We're going to do a quick fret job on this. I'm not going to show a lot of that because it takes so long. But I'm going to do a quick fret dressing on this thing. I'll show you the file I use. You guys don't have to spend a fortune on these files that they show everybody tries to push and make money off from. You don't have to spend a fortune for files. All you have to do is get a file kit. You can get one at your local Harbor Freight. You just have to know how to use a file and what file to use. And while they all will come in handy at one point or another for the frets. If you get their small file kits, they're fantastic. So we're going to use that on this bass today, and we're gonna dress the ends of these frets a bit, even though they're really good out of the box. We're going to make them like butter today. Then we're going to do a quick polish on them. We're going to look at some things that normally you might skip by when you get a guitar. You might forget to check things that, well, might come into play with tuning stability, such as your tuning keys. We're going to fine tune those, make sure everything's right on them, because I guarantee if you just bought a guitar, your tuning keys up top where they pass through the headstock themselves, probably not tight. And there's a reason for that, and I'll explain that in this video too. And then we'll set the neck a little bit, do a little bit of a neck adjustment, and we'll throw some flat wounds on this thing. And hopefully it sounds better and plays better, at least better to my liking. I will tell you, it is already done. It's sitting right here, and it really plays so much better, and it already was outstanding. So I'll give you a peek at the end, and at the end of this, I'm going to do Rocky Mountain Way again, and I'll leave a link to the other video I did with the stock strings on it versus these flat wounds. And you guys tell me what you think between the difference of the sound of this bass guitar is, because, man, I think, and I kept the settings the same, so I think this thumps a lot more. It's a lot more articulate now, and I did something that I normally don't do. I played this song with a pick, and I usually don't play with a pick. I usually use my fingers, but I played with a pick just to see if it would still be articulate, because, you know, flat wounds like to thump with the fingers, but how do they play with a pick? So you let me know at the end of this. This is quite a lengthy video, but I think you can learn a lot from this video, and maybe you guys might have some suggestions, and you can drop them in the comment section below, because I'm always willing to try new things, as I hope you are too, because that's how we learn, and that's how we can expand our horizons. All right, guys, without any further ado, here is that video. It's good seeing you again, and please hit that like button and please subscribe. Let's get that algorithm kicking. You guys are awesome. See you in a bit. Okay, so here the Glarry bass is in all its glory. Now, the first thing you'll notice is it does have an exquisite finish. I mean, this is first rate. This is probably the best finish that I've seen on a Glarry bass. Now, I can't guarantee that all basses are like this, all Glarry's basses, but this one is pretty exceptional. And even up to the headstock. The only problem we have with the headstock, if you look real close, we had a little bleed going on right there with a little sandpaper that can take care of that. And it's very nice on the back also. We'll get there. You notice we got the strings off. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to dive into this bass. And we're going to see exactly, well, what's going on with these pickups. Are they... What exactly are they? Are they labeled? Are they not labeled? So let's take them out and we'll see how the cavity itself is routed in this bass and see if the quality is there as far as that goes too. So let's zip these out real quick. One thing I can almost guarantee is that there's no springs under these screws. I usually in these inexpensive guitars, and sometimes I've seen it in expensive ones too. Now they're using foam strips, and they're all pretty much the same, which means you don't have any height adjustment to your pickup. So let's pull this one out and let's dive in here real quick and take a look. Is this just a cover? Is this the whole pick? Okay. Okay, so the first thing you're going to notice here, let me get you in frame, is that, let me zoom you in, is that it is a piece of foam, and this is definitely a potted pickup. They're using an epoxy resin. This is almost looks like an EMG style pickup. I don't see upgrading this pickup, to tell you the truth, because it does sound so good. The next thing we're going to notice here, if we look in here, is the cavity itself. Although it does have compound inside of it, it is routed out very, very nicely. I'm not going to do any shielding on this simply because I'm not getting any feedback with these pickups at all, so we'll keep it just like that. But as I suspected, no springs under the pickup itself, so there's no adjustment for height. So let's take out the other one real quick here and see if it's the same, because you never know, right? Quality control can vary. Who knows? And what I did notice right away was the pickup height itself is a little wonky on one end and not the other. So there we are. Once again, very good routing. And this is the wonkiness is why, because this strip right here is not in the center of the pickup. So I don't know if I can fix that or not, but we're going to have to put some springs in there anyhow. So let's sit these in for a second and let's check out some other things now. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So everything, I just want to make sure the pickups were the same size. I've actually seen pickups that weren't the same size before. So we'll sit those back in. Now, I've already done something. I started to do something. And this did come with very good frets, but I always, if I have it apart, I like to give it a nice fret dressing. And believe it or not, what I use is just a regular file set that I actually pick up at Harbor Freight. It gives me every angle that I need. And this is my main fret file. And it gives me a lot of different angles to hit the frets. And what I like to do is come in on the edges of the frets and sand down, like so, going down every one, then come back the other directions. We do it on both sides. And then what I do is I like to roll over the tops of the frets, and it rounds them over nicely. Now this can take some time to do it and do it properly, but it should be just like butter when you get done. And now, that's not the final polish. The final polish is what really puts the finishing touch on it. And we got one done up here, and that's this one here. Now this is just as smooth as glass right here. There is some imperfections in the fretboard itself. Once you get the strings off, you really notice it. But we're going to condition this up, and I'm going to show you guys some tricks that I like to use to keep the fretboard and the frets very nice. So I'll show you guys a quick polish of a fret. Of course, Dremel is my #1 tool of choice. I do not tape off my frets. And I can see some tooling marks where they actually leveled the frets in here. So what I do is I take my Dremel with my polish wheel and I run it in here and get some polish on there, like so. You don't need a lot. And then we're gonna run this over right here. Paying really good attention to the ends, because this is what's gonna smooth those ends out really, really well and make it like butter. So you get no snags, provided you did a decent fret job with the file. And it doesn't take much. And every once in a while this needs to be done. I suggest doing it when you change your springs, or your strings, I'm sorry. And so you never want to take too much off. You just want to hit it, polish it, and be done with it. And this polish will not hurt your fretboard whatsoever, by the way, guys. So that's why I'm not taping it. And we just give it a quick wipe off here. And if you feel anything that's questionable, like there's a little bit that's still questionable right there, you just come back in with the Dremel, speed it up if you have to a little bit. And believe it or not, that polish will smooth it right out. And that's it. It's beautiful. It is absolutely, now it's absolutely wonderful. And that's how we do that. And it goes from very nice frets to exquisite frets. And it's that simple. It's a fantastic fret job. So I'm going to finish these up. And then we'll come back and we'll address some other things real quick. Now, we're about done here, and you can tell when you're doing the frets, when you're on, especially when you're on your edges, when you want the edges like butter, you can tell, honestly, by the sound of the Dremel. You'll hear almost like a scraping noise while you're polishing, and then it will go away. When it goes away, you know you're done. It is just hit a couple more times after it goes away. Now, what I'm doing right now, this is my second go over, and I'm just smoothing everything out beautifully, paying attention to those ends. Because that's really the part that your fingers feel. And of course, as on any guitar or bass guitar, the most neglected frets are up where the neck pocket is. So that is that. Now what we're going to do is we simply come in and we take our rag and we're going to give it a quick wipe down through once. And why am I doing a quick wipe down, not just do it? Because we're going to come back through with the other side of the rag and take our time with it now. And we just pull off the residue. Just quickly. Now, if you really want to test, you can use a nylon. Grab one of your wife's nylons, but if you turn your microfiber over, you'll notice you got a looped end. And if you run that down through and you get any snags, you go back through and you can touch that part up. Now I have one right there, just a small one, and that's going to show us. So right there, this fret right here needs to be touched. This side's good. Oh, we got a snag. Where was it? Right there. Okay, where was the other one? No, we can't get to the snag again. Right there. So we're going to hit this real quick. Okay, right there. And we're going to hit this one right here. A little higher speed this time. And now that's gone. And that's all there is to that. It's amazing the polishing, just the fine polishing does at the end to make everything perfect. And that's what it is. Now it's a perfect job, in my opinion. I guess it could be better, but in my eyes, if I can't feel it, it's fantastic. So there we go. Okay, let's move on. Now we're going to move on to, and we'll clean up that fretboard a little better in a little bit, the headstock. Now, Anytime a new guitar is built, and I see this repeatedly over and over and over again, almost every single one that I get, if the guitar is not sat for an extended period of time before they put it together, what you have is loose nuts up top. And this is no exception. Happens all the time. They're all loose. Yep, every one of them. So we're going to go through and we're going to give those a bit of a snug just to make sure that they stay tight. Now, why does that happen? Because when they spray these, whatever urethane or lacquer or what have you that they're using, as it cures and dries, it shrinks, which creates a gap, which leaves you with a loose nut. Hope that makes sense to you. So it's important to know not to over tighten these, because we don't want to split anything. Okay, very overlooked part right there. Another overlooked part is your tuning keys. Now, when you grab these, you'll say, oh, they're shit. They don't hold or slip in there. They don't feel the same. Usually that's because the screw in the end right here is not tight, and this is no exception. I am moving the tuning peg, but not turning the whole thing. And where this one is tight, because I've already tightened this one, loose, loose. So we simply take a screwdriver. Now, you don't want this over tight because it becomes a pain to tune them, but you just snug it, and now we don't have any slop. And this is just a little bit of maintenance that you do every time you change your strings also. There. Now they all feel good and the same. So that's pretty good. I'm going to turn this key. We're going to string this up. So I'm just going to put these in a position that I like to have them in. There we are. And now's a good time to get in and clean up in here if you feel like doing it. Now, I really am a stickler for aesthetics on guitars and keeping them clean. So what I like to use on all of my guitars is a graphene wax. Why? Because it's simply the best. There's no comparison. Turtle Wax makes a wax. It is a hybrid. This is not a plug, by the way, but it kind of is because I don't get anything for it. But Hybrid Solutions Pro Graphene Infused Wax. They use an actual graphene in this wax. And there's various ways you can use this. I was in the car detailing business for years, and I really wish this stuff was out then. But now this stuff is amazing. Works really well on blacks. And they also have a touch-up that you can use after you put your initial on, which is just a spray solution that really helps a lot also in maintaining your finish. But it really protects the finish. And if you guys aren't familiar with graphene, I suggest you look it up because it is quite amazing stuff. Now, normally you'd actually use a damp rag with this. We're not going to. We're going to use this full strength. We're going to put this on. We're going to clean this up real quick. This has a lot of uses, by the way, especially on a guitar because it's got almost lubricating properties. So we can take this graphene and we can put that, I'm going to put it right here in the nut a little bit. But I'm going to show you a trick why that's kind of hazing just a touch. Take your file, because this is a problem with inexpensive basses. The nut may appear to be cut well, but if they have a jagged lip on the edge, your strings will bind, and that's when you get that popping sound. So just take your file and ever so lightly run it at an angle and make sure that the string will go into the slot correctly. And also make sure your edges up top on the top corners are smooth. Now right here, you can tell this one would have definitely bound. It probably was binding. And we just do that with all of them. Just do it quick. It's very quick and painless. And then make sure the tops themselves, we got a bind right there. Now, if this is binding on this file that really was fine, then you know the strings are going to bind. Now, that might not be the case with flatwounds that we're going to run, but with your normal bass strings it would be. So then we just take our top here and just give it a quick Smooth over on the top. Nothing special, just to make sure they don't bind anywhere. We will be changing this nut out eventually. I'll probably be going to a brass nut eventually, but that's it. Now take a little bit of graphene. Yes, directly. Put it right in that slot. I'm being excessive, I know, because I'm trying to get this video done, but take it right in that slot. And take your rag. Leave it in the slot, guys. Leave that graphene right there. And then we can take what we just put on the headstock, and we can, as you can see, this is going to really start to pop right here. And I'm using this full strength and not wiping it off with a wet microfiber. There's different ways you can do this. And you have to be kind of quick with this stuff because this will leave quite a interlocking coating. Well, this is excellent on blacks. I hope you guys can see that shine that's coming through. We'll come back here. We already know that this is going to be good. So the next thing we're going to do to this base is install some springs, which I have already prepared. Right here. Small springs that I have already prepared here that's going to go on the screws so we can do some fine adjustments. And we're just going to put them here, throw them on here, and put them in. This is going to help a lot with the stability of the pickup itself and allows us to go up or down a little bit better with the pickup. So let's get those on. Okay, little pro tip before we put these in. As you can see, we have the springs on the screws, but how do we hold those springs on the screws? Because you know they fall off. They'll always fall off every time you tip it upside down. Little pro tip, take yourself a piece of shielding tape or anything that you have like that. Cut out yourself some little squares like this. Okay, peel them off. Poke it right through the screw itself. Boom, just like that. And all that does is hold the screws in place, or they should say the springs in place, and the screws, so they do not pop off, and it doesn't affect anything. It's just a quick hold. It's a little trick, and it's my belief that that's why they don't put these springs on, because they're so hard to keep on, especially when you're putting these things together fast and trying to get them out and out the door. It's so hard to do. Now, as you can see, how fast and easy was that? See that? Now what we can do is set our pickup right in there. We're not going to lose our springs. They'll go right into the spots that they're supposed to go, and we can screw them right down. I'll show you here. Actually, we're going to do this one by hand to make sure they start in the proper holes. So each one of those now is in its proper hole, proper location, and we have spring adjustment on the pickup now. So we'll get the other one in, we'll come back, and we'll tackle something else. Okay, now is the time to add a thin coat of graphene to the face of this guitar. And we said we put it on, do the thing. Same thing. This is already on. This is already set to be wiped off. We're going to use a very clean microfiber for this and wipe it off. The time to clean your base is when you have it apart. I hope you guys can see this outstanding, look at that reflection, outstanding finish on this bass. And we will get to the back also. So right now we're worried about the front. Now that we've did our frets, we can come back through now. Now a lot of people love to use the fretboard oil, of course, the lemon oil. I'm Not a fan, I'm not going to lie. It does work. It's quick. It does work. Wipe it on, walk away, wipe it back in. My big thing for fretboards, if you watch this channel, is organic coconut oil. Works the best. And make sure you use organic, or it could go rancid on you, and you don't want a stinky fretboard for sure. So I'm going to show you what I use real quick. And just a quick job. Sit it on, let it sit for a minute, wipe it off. Good to go, easy peasy. Okay, and this is all I use right here. As you can see, we use a lot of this. This has only been used in the work area. Organic coconut oil, Nature's Promise, that's what I use. We take a little bit, and we're going to put it on between each fret. Don't worry about your frets. It's not going to lift anything. It's not going to harm anything. It's actually very safe, and it conditions wood extremely well. We'll put that on there. Come back, and we'll wipe it off. Okay, there we have that. And just come down through, wipe it in. Now, what I didn't mention is this is works extremely well for fretboards that are kind of grainy, that don't have a finish on them. So, as you can see, it automatically just pops. Now, I don't like to get it on the back of the neck. It isn't going to hurt anything, but I don't like to get it on the back. It's just, the less I get to wipe off, the better. And we're going to take our microfiber rag. Normally we'd let this sit for a little bit, but for time's sake, we're just going to wipe this all off. And you can see, hopefully now, just the amazing difference in the fretboard itself. Now it keeps its sheen. And another thing, it's a natural cleaner. So all of the polish residue, that we used, is now, as you can see, coming off every bit. Even though we thought we had it all, now it really comes off. Just make sure you get it all off. You don't want greasy fingers. So, and this will also shine up your frets themselves even more. And there we are. Very, very nice. Isn't that fantastic? I'll get you in there. And there we go. Okay, now we're set to string this thing up. We're going to be using Ernie Ball Flatwounds. I am not a fan, guys. I'm not going to lie. I love Flatwounds. These are still, in my opinion, better than your regular strings, but these are group 3s. They're Flatwounds. They're 45 to 100. I'm not an Ernie Ball fan when it comes to these strings, and that is simply because the quality control is all over the place with these strings, but I do have these laying around still from multiple packs that Ernie Ball has sent me due to having quality control issues. So we're going to string this up with those, and then we'll give it a thump test. One thing I forgot to mention before we string this up. Take your truss rod cover off before you do this. Now, bass guitars are a different animal, because, especially this one, because it's 24 frets, got a nice long neck on it. You can't tell how to adjust your neck until they're strung up. And there's a lot of guitars like this too, contrary to popular belief. They'll throw their straight edge on there and try to do their adjustments, get it right, and then string it up and realize they have to adjust it again. Listen, when you get a guitar shipped to you too, or a bass guitar, and you go, oh my God, look at it, it's way out, the action's horrible. Tune that guitar up first before you make that assumption, because a lot of times they detune those to ship them, so there's not a lot of stress on the neck, because especially with Flatwounds, they put a lot of stress on that neck. So no matter what, even though this neck I know was perfect with the other strings, I know I'm going to have to adjust this neck after it is strung up, simply because of the difference in tension, and I hope that makes sense. So even right now, where the neck was perfectly straight, I'm using the wrong gauge for this right now. It was perfectly straight when now we have quite a bit of gap here, and that's simply because the strings are off. So once we get the strings on, we'll have to readjust. It's impossible to set action properly unless the strings are on the guitar. I hope that makes sense to you guys anyhow, because I have found this out repeatedly, pretty much no matter what you are stringing up, unless you have a neck that is so hard and unmovable. And if that's the case, that's a danger of something breaking. So let's get this strung up, and then we'll adjust the neck and get the proper action. Okay, so now we have our strings on, our flat wounds, and this is my way of tuning my bass. There's a lot of different opinions. I'm not saying anyone's right. I'm not saying anyone's wrong. This is just my way. And it can vary according to bass guitar, so keep that in mind. But on this Glarry, so before I even tune this bass, I'm going to drop this action down. When I say down, I'm going to go as far down as I can before it just touches the fretboard, and I honestly don't think that that's even going to touch. So we're going to drop this as far as we can down, and honestly this is almost sitting on, and actually it is sitting right on the plate, right on the bridge. We're going to do that to all of the strings, and I'm going to adjust this action as low as I possibly can. Now after I do this, and I go down through, oh no, we're not going to be able to. Hold on here, let's get that down. We'll adjust them all down, I'll be right back. Okay, so what I've done is I've adjusted these saddles all the way down, slammed them down as far as they can go, and then once the screws become loose, I just put one little bit of turn, not even a turn, just enough to snug it so I know it's against the bridge itself. And of course we're going to have buzz. Okay, but we're not tuned up. And this is going to be our starting point, because now I'm going to go over and I'm going to tune this bass up. And in turn, I can see how far I am away. I don't set this to any particular spec. I set this according to low action, as low as I can get without having extreme buzz on notes. So I'm going to go over, I'm going to tune this up to standard pitch, and then I come back, I'll see where I'm at, whether I need to do a little neck tweaking or bridge tweaking, and we kind of balance that out to get the best action possible. Okay, so what I have found after tuning this up to pitch is we're not far off at all, but definitely a little bit on the bridge. Gonna have to raise it just a touch, but not on all of them. So let's get started with that. So I'm extremely lucky that I have a bench that raises way, way up, so I can sit seated and still have everything at eye level. That way I'm not on my knees. So I'm going to check my action. Not that I'm using this as, this is just a reference here. Each string right now is in millimeters 2.25. I really don't need to come up much at all. So we're going to give a little bit of a turn and just bring it off of the bridge. We have nothing dead, and it's not hitting. Once again, do the same thing with this one. It has to come up a touch more. We definitely have buzz there. And we'll have to go back after this and tune it again. That's a slammed action right there. Now we're getting rid of the buzz. And let's see where we're at here. Now, and now we do our neck adjustment because it needs to be brought back. Okay, so now we're gonna tune it back up. We got the neck adjusted. As you can see, we have the screw still in there, but let's E, A, E, and G. Okay. And there we have it. It is set up now with the lowest action that I could possibly get. And it plays nice. Now, as you know, you slap on a bass, you're going to get buzz no matter what. But it's low. And it's fantastic. So the only thing we got left to do now is all tuned up is put our truss rod cover on. And give it an earnest P whirl and test it out. There you have it. I'll give you some pictures here at the end and some close-ups. And thanks for watching Fulton Street Beats. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment section below. It's nice to hear from all of you. And thanks for watching. And remember, it's rock and roll that makes the world go round. Bye.